Yeah, good night, good morning, good evening, good afternoon. It depends on where you're listening from. We understand that, this world is full of different time zones. We have to appreciate that. Even here in the United States, there are several time zones, and, people get up at a certain time. When you are up, perhaps there are others who are still sleeping. But guess what happened? We are alive and well once you are listening. And, we have just celebrated Black History Month. February 2024. You might be listening this way in August, way in December, but this episode surrounds Black History Month, the Black community, where the Black community is going. And let me make a disclaimer here: it's nothing to do with racism or accusing the other race, But where are we going as a Black community? We have had Black leaders, Black sociologists, Black psychologists, Black people from academia who have tried to ensure that the Black community accomplish their goals, its goals. But look, as Black people, we are able to stand our ground and move ahead despite the challenges that our foreparents have had. Yes, indeed, they have paved the way for us, and our journey continues, and we are to achieve our goal through persistent accomplishment and also understand where we are coming from. But do not use our history as a blanket to overshadow our growth, our continued journey. I'm going to be talking to someone who can tell us more about the Black community, about Black Americans, and the Black culturalism, how we relate to each other within the Black community, and how our culture affect our relationship outside of the Black community. I will be talking to Tony. We're talking more about him and his work as a Black man, right? And how we can move forward, despite the challenges that we have gone through. Let me let my guest into the studio. Yes. Tony, how you doing, man?
Listen, highly favored. How you doing, doctor?
Yeah, same here. But we're going to talk a lot about Blackness and Black culture. We have just gone out of the what we call Black History Month. We're going to be talking more about that as well. Look, before we go into that, who are you? Who is Tony? Let us hear more about who you are.
Well, I'm Tony L. I have a eclectic background in regards to just being curious. I started a publication called Project that I opened many years ago, just because just as a hobby, and that has morphed into a podcast as well, where I'm trying to just get people to do one simple basic thing, is to remain curious, ask questions, as Thomas Jefferson said, boldly ask questions, even question the very existence of God, he said. And I think many of us don't do that, and particularly when it comes to the Black community, that's severely to our detriment. We don't ask questions as a community. I coined the phrase Negroids. We're Negroes, but we configure in almost like a mechanic sense, an android, where we just follow and don't be inquisitive, act as a robot. I mean, in Black History Month, and looking at your pictures depicting Blacks and a lot of stereotypical postures, particularly in regards to politics. We act as a robotic community where we have 80% of our community vote for one political party. No other ethnic group does that. And we should sit back as a community and question, is this beneficial? So my whole point in speaking to people and getting the word out is to question why are you doing things, and is it beneficial?
Yeah, interesting. I like the things that you have been saying, and it tells me that we are going to be having a good conversation about
Yes.
Blackness and Black culturalism. But let me ask you this: your childhood, Tony. Tell us about your childhood. I like to find out from my guests what going on, what has gone on in their childhood, their upbringing, so that we could reflect on where they are now.
Sure. I'm from the South Georgia. My father was in the military, and I'm in my adult age. I'm really, really fortunate that that was the case. No disrespect to people who born, raised, died in the same city and state, but I was fortunate that was not my path. So my dad was in the military, so I traveled some, and what that did for me is growing up. Once I didn't get used to being in the same place all my life. So when he was ready to pick up, I didn't have a choice. I had to go. So what that instilled in me is to be able to adapt, be able to talk to other people of different cultures, and I find it interesting as I've grown up when I talk to a youngster who travels compared to that one that has it or doesn't travel. It's a huge difference in the ability of how I'm able to communicate with that individual, that young person, or of someone who's not been able to get that exposure, that variety, to be able to see things through a different eye, to have a different perspective, different reference. So as I was growing up, I had that instilled in me, and I've always been curious, particularly when it comes to the ethnic groups, because I was always fascinated how in this country blacks were treated so negatively to many degrees when you compare them to ethnic groups or people who we went to war with, Germans, the Mexicans, or whoever. We would always seem to be treated more indifferently, and that never made any sense to me. And that always was a curiosity: why is this the case? And then as I moved to Atlanta is just rich with Black history, and I got exposed to the Nation of Islam. I got exposed to a lot of Black culture, information, and history, and points of view that it was never exposed to me before. Different ways, different history points of view. And as I travel some in my adult life, as I speak to this point on many of my podcasts, is that I was able to travel to Canada and live in Canada, Vancouver in particular, for over a year. And Black experience of there is totally different. And you may be able to co-sign this in your traveling. Yeah. Black Americans are unique people, good and bad, but we're unique. We got that flavor, good and bad, that you don't have from any other Black group of people anywhere in the world. And to see that, it solidified what I had been thinking, that the treatment and the behavior of blacks in America is conditioned. It's not born in us. It's not part of our DNA. It's conditioned. How we treat ourselves, how we look upon ourselves, how we allow others to treat us, how we allow others to identify us. It's conditioned through the educational system and through our culture. Everything's culturalized. So when you go to Africa, it's a totally different culture. You don't see American behavior, good or bad, in African children. You don't see Black American behavior, good and bad, in Canadian Blacks, because they don't have that crutch of the conditioning that Black Americans are exposed to from kindergarten throughout our adult life.
Yeah. But Black History Month, is it critical that we have a month called Black History Month? Are we achieving anything from Black History Month?
No, I don't think so, but I definitely do accredit the gentleman who who started Black History Month, his point was to shine a light on Black history, but American history is Black history. You cannot have America without blacks being involved. You can't have many inventions that we take for advantage without Black hands being in it. Blacks were the first on this planet. Blacks are the alpha and the omega of human existence. So to narrow our existence down to 1 month is no, we don't need it. We need more education to who we are, not just Black community, but who we are as a human community, and stop the lying of history.
You know, we talk about history, but we talk about racism, right? But look, how do you believe America is not a racist nation? Why would you believe that? And in saying that, can black be racist?
America is the greatest country on the planet. And when you look at our real history, not the history that we be conditioned to accept, the real history of America is Black history. From the Armax to now, through the Moors, through the people who explored this country many years before Columbus ever thought of what was even a thought in his mother's or parents' mind. We've been here. This is our country. And when you look at America today, you look at how Black people have flourished, prospered. We have more billionaires than anywhere on the planet. We have more millionaires than anywhere on the planet. You could probably attest to this. Black Americans are where every other Black person on this planet want to be because of our prosperity. We fall because we don't know who we are, and we do not know that we're walking on gold every day. We have immigrants from all over the country come in and see the gold on that's beneath their feet and take advantage of it. We've been conditioned to believe that this is not our land. This is our land. This is our land. And the fact that we've been removed from that, we think that we could go somewhere else. That's why they label us African American. No other people have been named after two. Okay, I'm trying to calm down. No other people have been named after two continents, and we accept that as being us. But even that designation is relatively new. In the 1960s, 1940s, 1930s, we were not called African American. You cannot go to any historical document from the founding of our nation, 1930s, 1940s, where you see us labeled as African American. So if we want African American at the founding of this country, when did we become African American?
I like that. But you know something? It's interesting that you have said that, because I'm wondering how you think about the back to Africa concept. Even back in my country, back in Jamaica, where I'm from, they'll talk about, some people talk about back to Africa. That's where we belong. We're going back to Africa. What's your view on that, the back to Africa concept?
What's the benefit? First, let's question who started that. Who started that? A German started that.
No.
We didn't start that. So you had to look at what was their intent in starting that. And if that's our history, how can we didn't start that? Okay. And by us calling ourselves African American, what's the benefit? What's the benefit? We don't know. I don't know anyone who has knowledge of where they're from. Africa is a continent.
Yeah.
We're treated like a state. Someone tell me they're from African America. I say, what part of Africa are you from? They look at me like I'm stupid. But that's a legitimate question. If you say you're from somewhere, where are you from? You should know that. I don't think anyone after 2 generations should say that they're from their home country, because now they are where they are to where they're from. We're the only people who want to tie ourselves to a continent that we have no history of, no connection to. If someone dies in Africa, we don't get a letter for inheritance. Never happened. And it's interesting that I meet Africans and they have no story of any great invasion and confiscation of their people. You would think that would be a story.
Yeah.
That they would know and be able to, attach to, either as folklore or something. But for whatever reason, mysteriously, there is no spoken language of such an event.
Yeah. Interesting. I've always wondered about that question, and to hear it answered by someone like you, it's interesting. What are some of the causes, though, of America's social decay? Are we seeing social decay in the American society, and what would have caused that?
It all comes back down to the lack of knowledge, lack of history. When you look at the impact, and I've mentioned this before, and is a vein with me, of the Democrat Party, the negative impact it's had on our people in particular, but our country in general. You could go back to Woodrow Wilson and look at how he removed the Black story from the textbooks. He set back knowledge of our existence, our contribution, and removed it from American culture to make it more palatable, to treat us as property, to treat us as inhuman, to treat us as insignificant to the American experience. And we're still suffering from that. But when you couple that with the fact that 80% of us, of our population, vote for the Democrat Party, just because our parents did, just because our friends did, just because our grandparents did, there's no legitimate reason and explanation why we're doing this based on habit and not based on what are we benefiting from it. So when you look at the decay of a society, we have to look at the liberalization of a society, where the woman had been taken from the home, where the man had been feminized, where the female has been masculinized, where the child has been left unprotected. Everything starts at home. When LBJ took the male out of the home from any female who was getting social economic benefit, that took the male out of the home, particularly in low-income families. And you see the cause of that every day you turn on the 6 o'clock news. And that, people try to ignore that. You can't ignore that when you have, what people, I think, liberally say that we're 14% of the population. But nothing moves in America without blacks. So when you have the Black community decaying in such a rapid degree, where you have 80% of our children being born out of wedlock, there's a negative consequence that you cannot run away from, no matter where you are and no matter what kind of subdivision or community that you won't put a gate around you and think that you're going to be safe.
Yeah.
You're not going to be safe.
Yeah. The American dreams. What is the American dream?
The American dream, as it is written and codified, where we have our rights noted to be does not come from man, comes from God. And therefore we have the ability to pursue happiness, the right to life, and liberty. No other people on the planet has that. No other people has that. So when you have that and you understand that, that's the American dream. Now, the American dream can be a nightmare when you don't take full advantage of that, where you believe that, yeah, man is going to give me everything that I need, where you want government to provide your needs and substance. Yes, then it'll become a nightmare. But if you understand that you are a creation of God, and this country recognized that, and the Constitution recognized that. So the dream is that you had the ability to see your dream come true, and you had the ability to not see your dream come true.
You know, Martin Luther King spoke about, I had a dream, right? The dream that Martin Luther King had, right? How do you connect that to the American dream? Is the American dream a playing out of the Martin Luther King dream? Talk to me about that.
No, Martin Luther saw what he called the promissory note. The promissory note is a promise, but in that, he was taken out because he woke up to the realization not only that the fact that he's being used, but also that he's being used to be detrimental to his people.
Right.
So when you look at his dream speech, and then you look at his speech in Memphis, those are two totally different personalities. So when you talk about the American dream and you refer to Martin Luther, you have to look at, again, the ability for the Black person to achieve things in this country that is inachievable in any other country. That's the dream. And let's understand, there is no Martin Luther King in England. There's no Martin Luther King in Russia. There's no Martin Luther King in any state in Africa or even Jamaica. The Martin Luther Kings, the Booker T. Washingtons, all these people, even Barack Obama, he came to heights in this country. And if this country is such a racist country, anti-Black, how did Obama get elected president in a minority population of Blacks?
Yeah.
The two points of views cannot share the same space. It's intellectually repugnant.
Yeah.
We have it good here in this country, better than any other country, but we've been conditioned to believe that we don't. We've been conditioned to believe that this is not our country. We've been conditioned to believe that if we let it burn, we somehow are going to be better for it. But you have other ethnic groups coming in and taking what we built and producing their own communities, growing their own communities, creating wealth. The Indian population, the Asian population, even the Jamaican population. And most of them don't want anything to do with the American Black because they see how we are not behaving correctly, appropriately, or productively. So if you see that coming in, that's just human nature. If you see a group that's going somewhere that you don't want to go, or that's going in a negative direction, do you want to tie your life towards that? No. You want to go where it's going to be, your life is more guaranteed to be prosperous and productive.
Yeah. Equality. I read somewhere that, you might not believe in, well, that there is equality. There's such a thing as equality.
No, it's not.
But when you talk about, Tony, when we talk about social justice and that element of social justice that we call equity, right? And equity and equality, we have read that it's two different things. But how do you punch equality into this social justice aspect of things? And are we achieving social justice because there's no equality?
Well, again, the words are important.
Yeah.
Would you agree? Definition of words are important. Would you agree to that? So when you look at the definition of social justice, where does that come from? When you look at the equality, Where does that come from in the social political sense? It all had the same origination, Karl Marx, communism, socialism. So if that's the case, and if you're okay with that, fine. But if you don't know the origin of the words you use and you want to follow that and you want to attach that to yourself, you best know where it comes from. There's no such thing as equality. Even twins, there's a difference in twins. If you put two seeds of the same type, tree, vegetable, plant, whatever, they're not going to grow identical. One person may have one leg shorter than the other. One person may see gold left. One person may see gold to the right. One person may not be that ambitious. One other person may want to charge every mountain, scale every cliff. Nobody is equal. But when government sets in and try to make us all equal, who is going to lose? The person who's trying to achieve, the person trying to charge that hill, or the person who just wants to be given government assistance? Government's always going to go to the group of people who desire their services more. If I'm independent, self-sustaining, I don't need government. The Constitution says I want to be left alone. Leave me alone. If I need you, I'll call you. I don't need the government to do anything that I can do for myself. Blacks used to be our creed. Independence, self-sustenance.
Yeah.
We were never meant to be on government welfare. So when you look at equality, equality only benefits the person who's not trying to achieve, who wants a hand up. Because there's no such thing as equality. With equality, someone has to come down, someone has to come up.
Yeah.
But government always puts people down. And even when you look at our culture, you see government hand coming in and trying to make the high achievers feel bad. Make the mostly black people or the black culture feel that they're owed something. And so therefore everybody else, like the white people, have to give back what they achieve to them for whatever reason. Nobody's asking questions. No one's having court cases to legitimize their requests, but they want that handout. But at the end of the day, it's like those massive ocean seagulls that were great hunters until the fishermen, with great intention, I'm sure, start feeding them so much that those great birds perish, because when the shipmen then come out to feed them, they lost the ability to hunt on their own. That's where we have come when we look at making us equal by the hand of man. We have lost our desire to hunt and feed ourselves. That's where the notion of social justice and equality comes. It diminishes our natural ability to be self-sustaining, to be able to take care of ourselves.
Right. So the black community, very interesting question that I'm going to ask you now, right? Very important. The black community, are we really self-reliant? Is the black community really self-reliant? Are we self-reliant? Or are we in a position where, okay.
No. And plus, when I was read my last podcast, the black community is very diverse. Even you, being Caribbean, there's a differentiation between Black American and immigrant Black.
Right.
Because your goals, your intentions, your desires are not ours, because we've been corrupted. Our female population has been corrupted. Your population has not been corrupted. So your goals are different. a lot of Black immigrants don't want to be part of Black American community. I can understand.
Yeah.
So when you look at the Black community as a whole, you have to look at what part are you talking about. The Black American community got a lot of issues. 80%, nearly 80%, well, 70 to 80%, depends on who you talk to, of people who are victims of crimes at the hands of other Blacks. That's not sustainable. When you look at the illegitimate birth rate, 80%, that's not sustainable. And when you look at the abortion rate, killing babies in the womb, that's not sustainable. All three together. So when you ask, are we self-sustenance? No, we can't be, because one, we're killing ourselves, and not the clans, not the white man. Think about it. If we stop killing ourselves, if we get to a point like we used to be in the 1920s, 1930s, with the Black Wall Street period, where we actually knew who we were and we knew who our enemy was. If we stop killing ourselves, that's 70% more lives that will be able to prosper, build things, teach, raise families. We're doing that to ourselves. So we can't be free and we can't be a great people if we don't understand, one, who we are, two, that we are valuable, and three, that we can do everything for ourselves that we need to have done for ourselves. And we should love our wife, our woman, our child, our man more than any other ethnic group, because we were the first and everything came from us. And it's no slight to anybody else. It's just facts. It's indisputable facts. But when we look at a point of it being a point where you think you're better than me, no, I think I got skills that you don't have. It's like you got skills that I don't have. Ain't nothing wrong with that. We're different. We're not equal.
It's black. It's black, right? Well, let me put it this way. Is racism solely about blackness, whiteness? Is a color?
Racism is a political concept to me, construct to keep us separate. There's only one race. And when you look at American history, people are surprised to see Black and whites coexisting together. If you remove the period where government came in and says, this group of people are animals, and you're better than that group of people, so I'm going to give all the favor to you. Human nature will say, yeah, I'll take that. You can look at the period during Nazi time. You can look at the period when whites and Indians were together. The Indians had been made the bad guy. And even up from the period of the heights of the Pope had to come down and make Indians bastards or the less than human. And they did the same thing with Blacks. So race in the concept as we see it is a way to divide us. And you see that becoming more and more of a detriment to America, but because that's America's Achilles heel. This notion of slavery, which to me, there's no such thing as slavery in the sense that we see that as in regards to Kuta Kinte and roots. Were the people in bondage? Yes, but there are more people in bondage in Brazil. You know this. But you don't hear about Brazil's slave period. America's slave period was very short in retrospect, and we came out of it. Why? Because the Constitution. The Constitution freed Blacks. So you can't say the Constitution is meant to be for white people when it freed us. And you can't say America is white because we are prospering more than any other people because we are American, because we are in America. So the two don't make sense if you're trying to say that our country was based on slavery, when in fact it wasn't.
No.
It's because of what the Constitution put in there that ended slavery. But nobody want to talk about that. So when you look at the race issue, it's a division concept. And until we stop looking at us as different, particularly when it comes to brown and white people, there's a point where there's a purpose keeping brown people separated. Because when you look at the numbers, there's more brown people than there are white people all over the world. But to keep us separated, squabbling over crumbs while they take the meat, purposeful.
Yeah, you're listening to Canute's Exploration, your topic in the podcast. I'm Dr. Canute White, talking to Tony, right? Those of you listening on your favorite podcast platform, remember to subscribe. Subscribe, those of you watching. But look, Tony, it brings me to a question that is very important as well. Classism, racism. And when I was growing up in Jamaica, I always believed that I could never get a bachelor's degree. I could never, because it's for the brown guys, the guys who have a fairer complexion than I have, right? But in effect, they are black, but brown. but I realized that more people with my complexion, black complexion, are getting degree now. I graduated summa cum laude, bachelor's.
Get
Where
up.
that came from? I didn't expect that. I know of 3 master's degree, a doctorate. Where that came from, I didn't expect that as a black youth growing up in the Caribbean, because I believe that's only for the brown people. And again, Tony, before I ask you this question, look at the bleaching concept. Many black youths we call bleaching, kind of changing their complexion to a fairer complexion, because they think that, they will survive. My question to you, as you ponder all of that, is classism, racism, how do they, akin, so to speak? What do you pick from them, and how do they connect?
Oh, for sure. I mean, it all has to do with power and money. I mean, there's no period of time that human nature didn't always look to, what they say, only the strong will survive. And when you look at, like, in your country, or even in Mexico, even today, Africa, even today, you have dark-skinned Africans, light-skinned Africans fighting. Classism is always going to be the case, because you're always going to have one group of people want to be better than the other. And you're always going to have somebody at the top of all of that controlling all of that chaos. You may think it's chaos, but it's not chaos to everybody, if you know what I mean. Somebody's benefiting from that. So when we stop fighting amongst ourselves and ask that question, who's benefiting from all of this? Then you get the answer. And then you understand how everybody's being used as pawns. But until we stop doing that, we always will be fighting over crumbs. Because as you say, classism and racism are the same. Because you have two groups of people fighting amongst themselves for no real purpose, and it's never going to end, because you're never going to see that goal that everybody's working towards, because that's where the sauce is at. That's because there is no end of this, because you always going to be pushed against somebody else, because somebody else always going to be under you. Because nobody wants, the people at the top don't want you working together. They want you to be fighting amongst each other, so they win.
Yeah, I have a final question for you before we leave. Marginalization. Do you think the black community, black people, we are marginalized?
For sure.
Okay. Why would you say that?
We have to be.
Okay.
We are the strongest people on the planet. We control almost $3 trillion in disposable income. The reason why the boycott won because blacks took their money away from white people. The reason why Trump, the people hate or love Trump, the reason why Trump, the first creation, was such a threat because he took money away from the power structure. I don't know how it's going to be in his next term if he gets there, you know, but it's all about power. So when you look at the black marginalization, there is no group of people that you see depicted in such a debaucherous manner. You see us as thugs. You see us as welfare mamas. You see us as everything negative. And most of that is self-inflicted. What other people gravitate along onto prison lifestyles, prison fashion, death, more than we do. Wearing our pants down off our butt, you know, putting these bonnets on our heads for no real reason whatsoever, and looking as heinous and disheveled as possible. But when you look at our picture in the 40s, the 60s, the 30s, totally different. And to make this even more impactful, when you go to Jamaica or you go to Africa, you don't see blacks behaving in that behavior.
No.
If you go to Canada, you don't see blacks acting in that behavior. It's a learned behavior. So the marginalization comes down to value.
No.
Value. And when you look at the massive importation of foreigners now, it's because blacks are becoming less valuable. The population that got the most value now are the Hispanics and the Asians, including the Indians. They get all the power. Blacks only got power 3 times. Every 2 years, every 4 years, every 6. Period. Politicians don't want to hear about from blacks other than that. But the Mexicans and Indians, they got the power. One, because they're productive. Blacks, Indians are the least political party group of people out there. They vote less than anybody, but you couldn't tell that. You couldn't tell that. One, because they take care of their own. 2, they got strong family structure. 3, they're economically inclined because they want their kids to be educated, to build more money. They ain't trying to be, you know, the superstar on TV. They trying to make that money for their family and family. We used to be that way. We lost that. So that's evidence right there of being marginalized because we've been further and further back where we're becoming more and more less relevant. And that's our fault because we tie ourselves to one party and allow them to get away with lying to us. And there's no consequences to them lying to us. Other communities, they make sure with the politicians say they're going to do something, they do. If they don't, they're out the next term. Because they're checking them and they understand how valuable their vote is. And I'm saying you got to vote. Yeah. I'm saying when you make money, put money to work in your community, and if it means economically impacting a candidate, to make sure he acts in your favor, do that. You ain't got to vote because he don't care about the vote. Politicians care about the money. If you come with the bag and give it to him and say, look, this is what I want you to do. If you don't do it, you won't see this bag next time.
Yeah. Hey, Tony, you know, it's nice talking to you, but where that EL come from? L come from? What Tony EL? Is that EL? Yeah. What?
EL?
Yeah. What L?
I'm part of the Moorish community.
Okay. You want to tell me about that a little?
This probably take a little bit more time.
If you may.
And all has to do with my discovery, my journey, to understand that, you know, it's not so much as what Malcolm did, where he wanted to, you know, denounce his whole Americanism. I wanted to become more attached to my Americanism.
Right.
And becoming a part of the Moorish community back then, the Moorish Science Temple under Noble Drew Ali. I was given this name because they saw that this was me, L, as opposed to Bay and Ali and all of that. So I've been wearing it, and it's God, Tony God. So I hear that, and as you know, vibrations is what makes the world. So every word again has vibration to it, and people got to understand this is all about science, and nothing new under the sun. Everything's by science. So if you calling yourself out your name, nigger, and all this other stuff, whole bitch or whatever, that has vibration to it. It has negative vibration, as opposed to somebody speaking kind words to you, godly words to you, positive words to you. Those have vibrations too that are uplifting. So when you look at our community, back to our community, what positive energy do you see going through our community? You don't see, or see very little. So words, how we speak to each other, what we call ourselves, is important. So I want to call myself something that when I hear it, I'm ready to go.
Interesting.
I know where I'm from. I know who I am.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I'm quite sure you're Canute.
Canute. The Spanish community say Canute, but it's Canute. It's British.
And that has a meaning?
Not really. I've done my research, and all it is saying is that it's a King of Wales. Yeah.
That's positive. Positive. I mean, you could have been, the opposite, So yeah, King of Wales, you're a king.
Right.
That's important, and words are important.
But I'm also called Ken, Ken, and when I researched that, it means wealth of knowledge. So those of you listening, those of you watching, Ken, Ken, mean wealth of knowledge, and I always appreciate that. And you're seeing it playing out. It's a truism.
Yes, there you go. So yeah, I mean, I would definitely encourage our people, because the way we're going is not sustainable. It's just not sustainable. I mean, and a lot of it is our fault, because we don't want to take responsibility for our actions. Yeah. And just as I always listen to this economist, and he mentioned that you can't expect people to be responsible when you remove them of all responsibility.
Right. Oh yeah.
I mean, so it's not a secret, why we going down this rabbit hole, because government has sought to remove all self-responsibility. You ain't got to worry about anything. I'll take care of you. Don't worry about it. You can act a fool. I'll take care of you. And then I act a fool, all right, because it's human nature.
I like that. Hey, Tony, that sounds good. And you talk about our children. We expect them to be responsible, yet still we're saying, no, you don't have to wash the dishes. You don't have to do this. You don't. So, parents, you get that, right?
It's like a child. Yeah. It's not a secret. It's human nature. It's human nature. If you remove all responsibility from me, I'm gonna act a fool, because
I love that.
I have no guidance, no sense of discipline. But again, what happens when you're a parent and you got a child who's out of control? Eventually, you got to lay hands on them. Government is going to lay hands on our people if we don't start acting like we got some sense.
Right.
Because they have no choice, because they will not sit still and let this go down, because it's theirs.
Yeah.
They will let it go down to a degree when you look at what's happening in blue states, and again, it's political.
Right.
In blue states, and you see the debauchery going on, most of it, you see us, but they aren't going to allow that to a degree until that money start drying up.
Yeah.
Money start drying up, they coming to correct some stuff.
Yeah.
And if we're in their line of sight, and they start laying the hammer down on us, we can't blame them.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I feel that is going to be the reaction, is to blame them, and then we're going to have people in the streets.
Yeah. Yeah. I got you, Tony. Very interesting stuff. Thanks for coming. You know, we have gone over time, but you know, it's important. All right, Tony. Thanks for coming.
Well, you know, it's like I said, it's great conversation.
Thank you, man. All right, you take care now. Bye-bye.
Yes, sir. Bye-bye.
So that was Tony L, right? Very interesting conversation. And he has said so many things, right? I mean, if you listen to Tony, you'll realize the passion that he had for the black community, for blackness. And he's not racist, but he is interested in how the black people survive and where black will be going. And you can find Tony's contact, the link to Tony's website, etc., in the description of this episode, where you can, you know, reach out to him and learn more, because Tony is also, in my mind, an educator. He has educated us about a number of things, and indeed, it's important that you touch base with Tony. Thanks for listening to Canute's Exploration, your topic in a podcast. We'll talk later.